Why are you just looking at me?
I don't know. I froze.
I thought you were gonna. You said I have a cold start. Don't worry about it. And now you didn't say anything.
Okay. Yeah. So I just got back from Mexico, right?
Yeah.
I got you a gift.
Oh, you got me a
souvenir.
gift from Mexico.
Here you go.
You didn't even tell me. What is it?
Surprise.
This is a miniature coffee cup shot glass thing. And it says Cancun, and it's got a skull. And it says, no andaba muerto, andaba de... That's kind of cut off.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means, but it looks cool.
I think that's a D. Parrand. So yeah, that's cool.
Little coffee cup, because we always drink coffee.
Yeah.
So
this is way better than Shroot Farms. I'm gonna for now on we're gonna use this coffee cup, and I'll just have you fill me up like 20 times.
Right. I kind of envisioned that you like dipping it into your big cup that you have right now. Scoop out a little
shots of coffee.
Yeah. So Derek and I went to Mexico. Our friends got married down there, and we did kind of like a late honeymoon since we hadn't done ours yet.
Right.
Which we're really coming up on our first anniversary, so it was more of like a early anniversary celebration. But it was the best trip we've ever been on. Like, we lived in luxury for a week. It was amazing.
Yeah, you were saying that. So
yeah, it was so nice. And when I was looking for a souvenir of what to get you, we were in the gift shop, and I found this really like beautiful coffee cup, a full size regular cup.
Right.
And it had, this really intricate, detailed artwork on it. I picked it up. I was looking at it. What? Why are you already laughing?
I feel like the story's going to end in, but I looked at it and it was way too expensive for you. No. So I got you the small one.
No. This was a totally different like style. So I was looking at it, and then the worker that was in the store came over and was telling me about the heritage of it and like where it's made and how it's handmade and painted and all this history to it. And so she walked away, and there was a little like sign behind them with more information about the cups. So I picked up the sign, and I was reading it, and I get down to the bottom, and it said the glaze on the cup was made out of tin and lead.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, lead. And I was like, well, we can't drink out of that. So I put that one down. Yeah. I found you that little safe one.
How much lead could you possibly have out of a coffee cup?
I mean, I don't think you should have any amount of lead ingested.
So whatever. They used to eat lead paint all the time.
It didn't work out too well for them.
I guess we're going to learn about that because there's lead paint in the Lunatic Asylum from what I remember. We went there years ago with my family.
Nice.
And well, not we. I did with my family.
Yeah.
And they've got like lead paint. So like the tour guides made a joke. They're like, please don't eat the paint here.
Right.
And I'm sitting there like, why would you eat paint? And they're like, well, because it's all lead. And it's not been updated. So
whatever. But yeah, Mexico was amazing. We were near Cancun. We were in Playa Mujeres, I think is how you say it. Right by Cancun. It was so nice. Our friends Chris and Tiffany got married, and their wedding was beautiful. And one of the groomsmen, his name was Josh, shout out, followed our podcast while I was down there.
So, okay. Where you were at, it was Playa Mujeres?
Yeah.
So I'm a few years disconnected from all of my Spanish that I took, but mujeres means like old ladies, right? And then playa is
meant women.
Old women, yeah.
I don't think it means old. I think it just means women.
Not old, but like older. It's not a young woman.
Well, there was like a bathroom there, and on the sign it said mujeres / women. So I think it just means like...
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Lady beach.
Basically just Cancun, I guess. But it was so cool. And Josh followed our podcast and said he was going to listen to it.
Who's Josh again?
One of the groomsmen.
Oh, hi Josh.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yep. So I'm not going to mention their names, but your friends got married.
I just said their names.
Oh.
Can you please listen to me for once? We're doing a podcast.
So listen.
Your only job today is to listen to me talk. That's all you have to do.
I got, the video I sent you where like the ADHD guy is like, he hears the thing and then goes off on a tangent. So for the last, 18 words you said, I was trying to translate.
I lost you right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the word for like a, I don't know, like an older woman, it's not a young woman, it's like a married woman or something. But yeah, I was trying to translate because I was like, does that mean Granny Beach or something? That would be like Abuela, playa Abuela, but
no, but that their names brings me to that funny story we were talking about earlier, where at their wedding down there they had the photo booth. Yeah. So I sent you the picture of the pictures Dirk and I did, and it had Chris and Tiffany on the photo, and you're like, that's not your name.
Yeah. So I forgot that you were going down because you had said you were going down there for a wedding.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot. Probably wasn't listening in the first place.
Clearly.
Honestly. But I saw the picture that you sent, and it was on those cards like you get out of like a picture booth or whatever.
Yeah, a photo booth.
And I said Tiffany and Christopher, and I was like, are they using fake names while they're in Mexico?
Our alias.
And I was like, that's really smart. That's what I would do. And then I asked you in the text, and you're like, well, those are our friends that are getting married. And I was like, I knew that. Yeah. 100% I knew that.
But shout out to Chris and Tiffany. We're so happy for them. Their wedding was beautiful, and it was so much fun. I'm really excited.
So people at the wedding follow the podcast, and then I didn't know any of their names. Like
just butchering this whole thing.
Totally didn't even listen to like whatever.
No, but it was such an amazing trip. But it's always good to come home. So I'm glad to be back and get back in our routine. But it was awesome.
Congratulations to Tina and Charles for their marriage. And
try again.
Huh?
Not Tina and Charles.
Oh, Tiffany and
Chris.
Buffer.
Yeah, but that was so fun. So I hope you like your little mini coffee cup.
Yeah, it's cool. I should translate this, but I'm not that good at Spanish. So far, I used to be really good. Remember when I used to be really good at Spanish?
No.
And I used to be really good. The entire reason I took Spanish classes was because all of the foreign language classes were in pretty much the same building, or the same couple of buildings at WVU. And so I took all of the Spanish classes because that's where that building was where all the Spanish girls hung out. And so I wanted to flirt with Spanish girls.
Okay, we're moving on.
It never worked out for me, but I got really good at Spanish there for a while. I was fluent.
Yeah. Now you have nothing to show for it.
Still didn't have any games, so fine.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is unrelated, but I had one more story I wanted to tell at the start of this.
Okay.
So I went to the dentist the other day because I noticed on one of just like one tooth, my gum has gotten really low under it, and everything, all my other teeth are fine. So I went and was just like, hey, what's up with this? Like, why is my gum receding on this one tooth?
Yeah.
And they're basically like, we don't know. Like, your teeth are fine. Your gums are fine. That one's just disappearing. So they said I would have to like go see this other special dentist. And if it gets worse, possibly get a gum graft. And you can get a gum like graft from the roof of your mouth or cadaver gum. And that made me think of when we were talking about, I think, the Gloria Ramirez episode and getting like cadaver bones and stuff. And we said ghost bones. And I might have ghost mouth one day.
You might. Yeah.
Probably not. I'd probably use my own tissue, but that's kind of scary.
What kind of ghost do you think you would have in your mouth? Like,
I don't know. I don't want to be haunted.
Like an intelligent one that like talks for you. That could be useful.
I hope not. That sounds like a possession.
Could be useful if you had control over it. Wouldn't be useful if it was you didn't. But
I don't know. I'm probably just going to ignore that problem for a while, actually. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, that sounds... A gum graft sounds not like an easy or fun...
I read about it and really freaked myself out, honestly, because it looked actually awful. So I'll just wait till it gets worse and then deal with it, I guess.
Yeah.
And think about cadaver gum.
Yeah.
Anyway. Get myself nice and scared about it.
Yeah. So
that's all from me. Do you have any shout outs or things you want to say before we start?
Yeah. So I just wanted to put it out there because we always end up saying it at the end of the show and after like all of our chit chat and stuff. And so I'm just going to put it out in front.
Finally.
As soon as because we always say we need to put it at the front. So
forget every time.
If you like the show, you can leave us a review on whatever podcast platform, Spotify or Audible or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening, leave us a 5-star review. That's like the quickest and easiest way that you can help us out, because all the reviews tell those individual algorithms that people like us, and then it would recommend us to other people to be played for them.
That would be really cool.
And that would be good. And it would help us grow our audience a little bit better. So if you haven't already, do that. And that would help us out, please. No.
And thank you.
Unplease. This is me forcing you over the microphone to do that. And then the other thing is, for all of our posts and stuff, if you wouldn't mind, the other easiest and freest way that you can support us is just to follow our social media pages on the Facebook and the Instagram at Country Roads Creeps, and like all of our posts. So, and that also tells the Instagram and Facebook algorithms that people like us and that we should be recommended to other people. So if you like us and you hit the share buttons and stuff, then that super helps us out.
And we would love it and love you.
So that's the easiest way that anybody could actually help us out. And I know there's been a couple of people well, other than listening, what, how can I help out? That's how. So the other thing is the back to school link that we shared the last episode. It's still good. And so I'm going to put the link again in this episode, in the description, and I'll put it for the, what's the post that we do? The photo dump.
Yeah. When
the episode releases.
Thursdays.
I'm out of whack today, you know that. So anyway, but I'm going to put the link, and it's good till I think the end of not December, September or something like that. So anything that you need for back to school wise, or for teachers, or for your students,
office
or
stuff if you need
office stuff, you can get certain things you can get a discount on, and you can also sort by the subject, or if there's a certain specific things that you need, like backpacks or books or whatever, you can sort by that stuff, or art supplies or whatever. And then also you can sort by grade level, or the characters or whatever, so that you can sort by Superman if you
Bluey.
want. Yeah, Bluey.
Love Bluey.
So there's that. What was the third thing? I told you there was a third thing and I forgot. October. What are we doing in October, Hannah? Why don't you tell us?
Cryptid extravaganza.
We're doing a wow. I caught some of the chocolate in there.
Oh, in your coffee?
In my coffee, yeah.
Nice.
Usually I don't catch it. It's just a whisper. It's like you drink
essence of chocolate.
Yeah, and then in my ear it's like chocolate.
Anyway, back on track.
I hope that shows up in the mic. It's ASMR, but
stop. We're not doing
that. So anyway, yeah, Cryptid Extravaganza. So for the entire month of October, we're going to do an episode every week. Usually we only post every other week. For October, for our Halloween Cryptid Extravaganza, we're doing one monster every week. So are we going to say which ones we're doing? Did you write that down?
I did.
Oh my gosh, you got to pull it up?
Yeah, let me get that document real quick.
I know we're going to do Mothman.
Yeah,
and I know
Mothman's my favorite.
I know we're going to do the Flatwoods Monster. And I know we're going to do Skinwalkers and Wendigos and
I think we're combining. Okay, I have it. So we have Mothman and Flatwoods Monster will be on one episode. I'll probably do Mothman, you'll do Flatwoods.
Okay.
Then the week after that will be Sheep Squatch and the Grafton Monster.
Yep.
Week after that is Shadow People, which you're kind of taking the lead on. I don't really know much about that.
Okay. Yeah, the Shadow People.
MIB, Strange Entities.
Black-Eyed Kids, yeah.
Yes. And then the fourth week is Not Deer, Wendigos, Skinwalker type of deal.
Yeah.
And then we were tossed out the idea of doing a Friday the 13th special.
When's Friday the 13th?
It is on Friday the 13th.
In October?
Yeah. It's the second Friday.
Yeah.
Like a mini episode.
Oh, yeah. Is that it? Wait, I thought we were doing one monster. Are we doing two monsters every week?
Yeah.
Huh.
They're going to be long episodes.
Maybe. Yeah. It's an extravaganza though. So
that's all subject to change. This is not set in stone. That's our tentative plan.
Yeah.
It'll be fun though. I'm excited.
Yep.
October's our favorite. All right, listen. We're getting into it.
I'm right here. Okay.
Listening ears on.
I have to turn my listening ears on so I don't miss when we do the intro. So.
Yeah. Are they on?
Right here.
Okay, great.
I'm all listening ears. Not a single non-listening ear on me.
The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, once a beautiful facility built with good intentions and the goal to help those that needed it, tragically became incredibly overpopulated and deteriorated into an environment of nightmares. Acts of evil were perpetrated against patients and staff alike, and these horrific events left a lasting impression in the building. Some say the tortured spirits still haunt the hospital today. This is
Country Roads Creeps.
Good listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You gave me the signal.
I did. I was afraid that you drifted off. You looked away, and I got scared.
My screen dimmed, and the battery thing is dying. So I'm like, I'm just going to close it. So.
All right.
Yep. We need like a bell or something.
Like a laser pointer and get you back over here. Okay. So our story today takes place in the town of Weston. This is in Lewis County, West Virginia. So to help place that, the middle of West Virginia is Braxton County. That's the home of the Flatwoods Monster that we're going to talk about.
Yep.
Lewis County is right above that.
Uh-huh.
Okay. What?
I remember 7th grade. This is like a random memory of mine. I remember, so 7th grade, we took, 7th or 8th grade, I think 7th grade, we took West Virginia history.
It was 8th grade for me.
8th grade. So maybe, I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
We had to memorize all 55 counties in West Virginia. And so me and my friend, who I'm not going to mention the name of, we were going through like, how are we going to remember all the counties? Mm-hmm. So Raleigh County is easy because it looks like a rooster. And then there's a few other ones, like you just kind of have to like remember like what order they come in, like the Northern Panhandle. There's like 3. Just remember which ones they come in.
You remember when we did the Greenbrier Ghost?
Yeah.
Greenbrier County looks like a ghost.
Yeah,
it does. Yep. Continue.
But Lewis County, we decided that Lewis County just looks like a guy with a mullet named Lewis. So that's how we remembered the guy.
That's amazing.
The county that looks like it has a mullet is Lewis County.
I love that so much, actually.
Everyone's going to be pulling up their maps like,
Lewis County. Lewis County, West Virginia. So the middle of the state and up a little bit.
Yep.
All right. So before we really get into the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic
Now that I think
Asylum,
about it, that might be Tyler County.
Well, that just ruined the whole... Cut that out.
I know. Anyway.
Okay. As I was saying, before we get into it, we need to know some history first, okay?
Okay.
Stop laughing.
I'm sorry.
Listen. Okay. Listening ears.
I have my listening ears, yep.
All right. I don't want to do the podcast anymore today. I'm over it, actually. I feel like I'm at work. This is exhausting.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I'll wait until you're ready.
We're going to be here till midnight. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on today. So.
No more getting tattooed before the podcast. All right. I'm just going to continue on, and either you're here or you're not.
Yep.
For the listeners, not Shane, people that are listening to my story today, we're starting back in the 1700s, okay? During this time period, people with mental illness were most commonly thought to be possessed. Like, there was no understanding of mental illness.
Right.
People thought you were possessed by witches or demons or the devil himself. And people that had mental illness were often just thrown in prison and treated horribly. So they would be chained up. They would be left, without adequate heating or cooling, like no airflow, not given enough food and water, just treated terribly. And if family members decided to help a mentally ill person instead of like letting them go to prison, they would just hide them away from everyone. They would keep them locked in a back room or out in a shed building, sometimes like even in holes in the ground. Yeah. They were just very isolated. It was terrible. Some facilities for mentally ill people were constructed in the 1770s, but again, those were still made just to hide people and not help them. So it was a terrible time.
Just keep them away from society.
Yeah, very isolated, just kind of like hidden away. You didn't talk about it. You didn't want to see it.
Yeah.
And at this time, people, just referred to mental illness as insanity, and they believed it was incurable. So they just kind of gave up hope. Like there was nothing they knew to do about it. This thankfully began to change in the 1800s. So as we move into that century, we have two important people in this history that I want to talk about. During this time, there were some people that started to realize conditions for mentally ill people drastically needed to improve. And these efforts led to lawmakers having to allocate funds for appropriate care. So the major player that I want to talk about first is a woman named Dorothy Dix, D-I-X. And she was awesome. Yeah. Super cool lady.
Love Dorothy Dix.
Dorothy Dix. She's so cool. She was a teacher, a nurse, and an advocate for helping mentally ill people, and she caused major social reform in the 1800s. She had a rough start, let me tell you.
Okay.
She was born in Maine in 1802. Her father was abusive and an alcoholic, and her mother was mentally unstable. So, rough home. She had two younger brothers that she ended up having to raise just because, like, her parents weren't taking care of any of them. So, she is a child with two baby brothers, and she's taking care of them as the mother. She didn't get any formal education, but she was just very smart and naturally talented. And she opened a private school in Massachusetts when she was only 15 years old.
No kidding.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she didn't have any schooling herself, but just like figured things out. And when she was 15, she opened a private school, and she taught girls there like herself that otherwise would not have had the opportunity for school. So that's pretty awesome.
Like girls who come from like messed up homes, or just girls that like, don't have an education, or
both.
Oh, okay.
Girls that just otherwise wouldn't have been able to get an education. Yeah. She brought them to her school and taught them when she was 15.
Yep.
Yeah. And then she opened another school in Massachusetts 5 years after that. And then we're going to move forward a little bit. In 1841, she visited a jail in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and saw the awful conditions there, like I was mentioning earlier. Mentally ill inmates were often chained naked to the walls without heat and just really horribly abused. So Dorothy was naturally very upset over these conditions, and that's when she really began working for change. And she actually got the Massachusetts state legislature to improve the conditions in the jail. She got them to like take money and
that's good.
Things about it. So that was cool. And that sparked her traveling to other states, and she actually ended up going to Europe and Asia and just kind of traveled all over doing similar work. So she was going to these jails, and she was exposing the bad conditions of the way mentally ill people in jails were treated to the public, and like showing them how awful it was and that it was such a problem, because a lot of people didn't know. And if they did know, they didn't care.
Right.
Or didn't know what to do about it. And so she got governments to start to make change and improve the conditions in the really jails. Good. Yeah.
Does it mention like specific countries, or just like not
that I saw, just states in the U.S. and places in Europe and Asia.
Oh, okay.
She was traveling for most of her life. So her work, all that advocacy, led to the first state hospital for the mentally ill to be opened in Trenton, New Jersey in 1848. So up to this point, they're mostly in jail, and there were a few facilities but were just made to like hide them away from society. Yeah. So her work led to the first actual hospital for mentally ill people being opened. So that was huge. It was the second asylum built following plans created by Thomas Kirkbride. Remember that name because we're coming back to him.
Thomas Kirkbride.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'll finish with Dorothy before I move over and talk about him. Her work was very demanding physically, mentally, emotionally, all of that, as you can imagine. She's traveling all over, seeing people treated horribly. That would take a toll on anybody. And later on in her life, she sadly ends up having numerous breakdowns, and she eventually admits herself to that same hospital in Trenton that she helped start.
Huh.
Yep.
That's interesting.
So she ends up going to be a patient there. Yeah. They give her a private apartment, and she lives there for 6 years before she dies in 1887.
How old was she when she died?
Well, she was born in 1802, I believe. So 85?
Yeah. That's a long
pretty good.
Life. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good in the 1800s. Yeah. So she she lives out the rest of her life at the hospital in Trenton. But I wanted to talk about her to acknowledge all the hard work that she did for social reform, because, I mean, she was really the change in that century.
Yeah, well,
to get mentally ill people to be treated better.
Yeah, open the first place for them, right? Yeah. So how, did you, does it,
Take a breath. Take a breath.
I don't have a sentence. Did it say in your research what the conditions were like in her place, or like what they did for the patients, or it was just a place, the first place that actually took care of them for their problem?
That's a good question. And
instead of just locking them away.
Yeah, no, I'm going to get into that a little bit because we have to talk about Thomas Kirkbride.
Okay, yeah.
Because the hospital that she went to was the second asylum built following Kirkbride's plans. Okay. So we're going to talk about him and what his plans were for like hospitals and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
I'll go ahead and tell you it was much better than the jails and everything at the time.
Right, okay.
Okay, so yeah, our next important figure in this history lesson is Thomas Kirkbride. So we're going to move on to him. He was close to Dorothy's age. He was born on July 31st, 1809. So 7 years after her, okay. In Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And his family was Quaker farmers. So Pennsylvania had a lot of farmers at the time.
What did they farm? Oats?
I don't know.
Is he the guy on the box?
I don't think so. Huh. But his father felt that he was too frail for farming and instead encouraged him to try for a medical career.
Man, imagine
the pressure. Like you're too skinny to be a farmer here. You got to be a doctor.
You're you know those Facebook or Instagram reels where it's like the two blue collar guys that are talking. He's like, you're a sissy boy if your hands don't look like these when you're eating, and it's like covered in mud, and he's holding a sandwich. It's like, ooh,
yeah, yep. So his father encourages him to go into medicine, and Thomas does get to go to school. Unlike Dorothy, he goes to like normal whatever school was available at the farmland in Pennsylvania. So at 18, he begins studying medicine under Dr. Nicholas Belleville in Trenton, New Jersey. And he gets his degree in medicine from the University of Pennsylvania in 1832. So he really wanted to be a surgeon, which at the time was like the biggest deal. That was the most lucrative position you could have in medicine.
We've mentioned that before, and it's like, this is not a good time to have a surgery done at all.
No, it's bad. So, it's just bad always. Yeah. But that's what he wanted to do.
They didn't know that germs existed at this time, did they? Or like not really?
I don't know when that was figured out, to be honest.
So it was like a sign of a good surgeon if he had like a really bloody apron.
Yeah.
They're like, he's done a lot of these surgeries. He's really good.
Yeah. I don't know when that changed, but he wants to be a surgeon. But he can't get residency at the Pennsylvania hospital where he wanted to go in Philadelphia. He doesn't get offered a residency there. But family connections, like his Quaker family, helped him get residency at the Friends Asylum for the Insane in Frankfurt. I don't know if you know a lot about like Quakers, but they refer to each other as friends and like call other people friends. So that was the name of this asylum that he goes to work at, the Friends Asylum for the Insane.
Man, I'm a little too antisocial to be a Quaker, I think.
Yeah, you don't want friends.
Yeah, I don't want to be friends with you.
Right. Frankfurt is a small town outside of Philadelphia, so he's not where he wants to be, but he's still close. He got connections that helped him get in. So he accepts it because it's going to help him build his resume, help him get experience so that he could eventually get a spot at the Pennsylvania hospital. And while he's at Friends Asylum, Kirkbride noted what he called the moral treatment of the mentally ill patients there. It was very different from the standard treatment at the time that Dorothy Dix was fighting against. So the Quakers are doing things a little differently and treating them like, I don't know, people, like human beings,
so
not chaining them to walls.
He's a surgeon though, right?
Well, he wants to be a surgeon. Okay. Right now he's like in doctor residency.
Okay.
He's not a surgeon yet.
I was going to wonder like what kind of surgeries are you doing at an asylum? Like there's only one I know of.
He didn't really he wasn't striving to work with mentally ill patients. This is just where he's ended up as a stepping stone for him to get back to Pennsylvania Hospital. He has to kind of fill his resume here. Okay. But while he's there, like he does a really good job working there. He notes that the Friends created a family-like atmosphere. They have engaging activities for their patients. They're like doing things, mental activities, physical activities. Kirkbride took his work very seriously there, even though it wasn't his original plan. He still worked hard at it. He did a good job, but he still wants to be a surgeon. That's his ultimate goal.
Right.
But he does a good job at the Friends Asylum, and later on he is eventually offered a residency at the Pennsylvania Hospital. This is in March 1833, and he takes it. So he gets to go to where he originally wanted to be. So he's reported to be outstanding with his work, and notably with the way he treated all his patients. And he grows his own private practice because people really like him. Like, he takes them seriously. He listens to them. He's kind, respectful. He's nice.
I think that has to do with what he saw happening at the mental health facility.
Mm-hmm. I think that really influenced the way he worked with his other patients, because it was very different from what everybody else was doing.
And probably because his religion.
Yeah, probably. So his work is noticed by the hospital governors. I guess this would be like, today we usually have a board of governors, but he gets noticed by the big guys in the hospitals. And so in 1840, he's offered the position of superintendent at the newly built facility called the Pennsylvania Hospital for the Insane.
Wow.
So he's ending up going back to work with mentally ill patients. That was never his plan. It's just kind of worked out. And he takes it because it's another good step for his medical career. Not necessarily out of interest, but out of, like, rising in status. To be the superintendent of a new hospital is a big deal. So he does take it, and he stays there for the rest of his career. He works 43 more years in this position.
Oh, neat of him. So how old was he when he died?
I don't know.
Yet? Oh.
We're not there yet. We'll get there. We'll have to do some quick math. So during that time that he's working at the Pennsylvania Hospital for the Insane, he developed his theory on the moral treatment of mentally ill people. And what he's really known for is the way he wanted to design the buildings. He said they needed to be in a shallow V shape, and I'll probably get a picture of that and put it in the photo dump. Okay. But this was so that the rooms would all be like spread out enough that every room could have plenty of airflow and plenty of sunlight. There weren't going to be any like closed in or blocked in rooms. They would all be able to have this, what he thought was a curative effect. And he also said the facilities, like the hospital he was in, the Friends Asylum, needed to have activities for the patients that would be physically and mentally stimulating. There needed to be a family-like environment. And the facilities would be self-sustaining. So they would have their own resources. They would be able to grow their own food, like have their own water, just maintain themselves. So that's what he works on. That theory of the building being curative is discredited in the 20th century because we know it's not buildings that cure people. And that's what he really thought, was that it was the building. It's more of the environment and the treatments and stuff. Yeah, but at the time, it's still like so much better than what they were getting, which was like thrown in a hole and chained to a wall. So vast improvement from the 1700s into the 1800s.
Well, I guess it's one of the things of like, well, so number one, at least they're trying. Like even if it wasn't the,
it's like, so much better than what it was.
Shape of the building, it's like.
Well, but it's better than a gel cell.
It's way better.
Yeah.
So, especially like they're like, well, this will let them, like, all the rooms get enough sunlight.
For sure.
Like, way better than, first of all, sunlight's good for you, but also way better than just being locked in a hole somewhere.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Humongous step in the right direction.
Yeah. So I think there was a thing that I remember from when I did the tour at the Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, where they built it following like some guy's theory. Maybe it's the same guy.
No, it is. Yeah, we're getting into that.
And they built it so that they would, like, all the rooms would have like a certain amount of light or something like that.
That's exactly what this is. Yeah, so it comes to be known as the Kirkbride plan.
Okay.
This building design idea. And his plan was used to build over 300 facilities throughout North America. He goes on to become a founding member of the Association of Medical Superintendents of American Institutions of the Insane. Stupidly long organization name.
Say that 4 times fast.
I'll say it one more time. Association of Medical Superintendents of American Institutions of the Insane. So he helps found that. Okay. Yep. He is president of that organization for 8 years. He also published a text called On the Construction, Organization, and General Arrangements of Hospitals for the Insane. And that is recognized as the definitive work on the subject, and Kirkbride is known as the leading expert in the field at that time.
Right.
So obviously things changed, but he was like the lead dude for treating mentally ill patients at this time period.
I have a question.
Okay.
So his plan for the buildings. It's not like he thought it was the building that would cure people.
Yeah, if it was like
the building.
Open, airy sunlight and with, I guess, like appropriate resources. Yeah. So, I mean, he was partly right, but we know now there's more that goes into it than just the building design. I mean, you do need openness and sunlight and air.
Yeah. So is it like, is that like probably is a major contributing factor to people getting at least a little bit better?
Yeah, because they're not in a jail cell chained to a wall.
Better. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. When I said discredited, I just meant they learned that it was more than just the building being the cure. Okay. Some other interesting facts about him that I just didn't know where else to put. They're just interesting. One of his patients attempted to assassinate him, but he survived.
Wow.
And then he married one of his patients and they raised a family together.
That seems
a little wrong.
Maybe.
It's kind of frowned on today, but
definitely today.
Yeah, doctors probably shouldn't date their patients, but different time period, I guess. They raised a family, so maybe I hope they were happy.
Yeah, I guess if it worked out and the kids were good, then not bad.
There wasn't a lot of information. But he died on December 16th, 1883 in Philadelphia. Hope they were happy. He died.
Like, if the kids were good, both of those ended up in an insane asylum later on. So
hope not.
Okay, maybe that's where they get the theory that doctors shouldn't date their patients because your kids end up in asylum.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so all of that history leads us to the Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. The star of the show did this episode.
How many? You said he built 3. The plan was man, wow.
Take a breath.
Having a time.
His plan was used to build over 300 facilities in North America.
Okay. How is that up to a certain point, or are they still building according to his plans kind of today?
I don't think people really use his plans anymore because it makes the buildings like so big and long.
That's good.
Like stretched out wide. More like seems more buildings are built up now, tall.
Yeah, that's bad.
Instead of
I like a V.
Yeah, so, I mean they're very beautiful buildings. We'll have pictures on the photo dump.
Yeah,
they're gorgeous.
Okay, so how many asylums are there at this point? Like when he.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I always feel like I'm asking you questions that like...
Yeah, like I feel like I do such thorough research and then you ask me such specific questions that I did not anticipate. I'm
going to stop. So
it's okay.
I'm going to ask you very
general. Ask. I'm just going to tell you I don't know. I don't know.
How many windows exactly?
Right. How many stones did they have around the outside?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who laid the first cornerstone of the...
All right. So let's recap up to this point. We have Dorothy Dix, who did amazing work to help mentally ill patients. And then we have Thomas Kirkbride, who was like the leading expert in the field at this time and whose design plan...
I hit the applause button. We don't have headphones
don't have our
today.
headphones on, so I don't even know if it's gone.
Yay.
Hope it's over. All right. So we're moving on to the Allegheny Asylum.
Yep.
History of this building. It was constructed between 1851 and 1888. Took a little while because it was interrupted by this thing called the Civil War.
Yeah.
You heard of that, right?
Didn't they use it a little bit to house soldiers?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. We're getting ahead of ourselves. I was just thinking about that. Got interrupted by amputating people's legs.
No. Okay. This story that I'm about to tell you involves the war.
Oh, no.
And I love this story so much. Good. I had not heard it until I was doing this research, and it's so funny. As funny as a war story can be. Okay? Okay. Cool. So just listen.
All right.
In 1861, the asylum is still in the earlier stages of being built. It's taking a while because it's huge. Okay? Right. It's built by hand. So in June, Virginia seceded from the Union, and all work that wasn't related to the war stopped. So they paused working on the asylum. Things get crazy on June 30th, okay?
Okay.
At 5 a.m., the citizens of Weston are woken up by the marching of the 7th Ohio Infantry. They had marched all night from Clarksburg, which is about 25 miles north of Weston. The commander was Colonel Erastus Bernard Tyler, all right? And he's familiar with the area and the citizens that live there because before the war, he bought and sold furs all throughout Lewis County. So he knows the area. He knows the people that live there. They know him. So Tyler commands his troops to go through Weston and capture anybody that was suspected of being Confederate sympathizers. And while they're doing this, Captain List took 2 soldiers and went to complete the actual mission. Want to guess what their actual mission was?
Oh, man. Can you give me a hint, or do you want to just tell me?
I'll just tell you.
Okay.
They were there to rob a bank.
No way.
Yes, but it's like a Robin Hood situation, okay? So there you go. List and 2 soldiers.
Whoa.
No, just listen. Just listen. Hold your questions. They go to the Weston branch of the Exchange Bank of Virginia, which has $30,000 in gold. This was deposited by the state government of Virginia, okay?
Okay.
That money was supposed to pay people that were building the asylum, but it's going to be returned to Richmond for the war efforts because they're seceding from the Union.
Right.
So Virginia's going to take this money back out of the bank and use it for... No, stop. Don't say anything. Let's just listen.
Okay.
So List and his men are able to get away with $27,000 of it, which would be over $500,000 today.
Nice.
Okay. They take that money back to Wheeling and use it to help fund what becomes the state of West Virginia.
No way.
Yay! Hit the applause button. Yeah.
Okay, so
they robbed the bank and took that money to Wheeling to keep it away from the Virginia government to help with West Virginia becoming our own state in the Union.
What a tale, because I was
Isn't
so
that
confused.
wild?
Because you said that they came from Clarksburg. So I'm like, well, then they're a Union unit, right? And then, but then they're robbing the bank for the Confederate money. So are they, and then you said they're seceding because Virginia's seceding from the Union.
Yeah.
So are they taking the Virginia money back there and they're going to fight for Virginia? But then, no, it turns out they're going to go fund to start West Virginia.
Isn't that a great story?
So because of those 3 guys.
Yeah.
So,
And so lots of war stuff happens in that area, obviously. Lots more, like so much more that I didn't write down because so much is going on. But I just thought that story was so funny. And when they finish, I mean, that money is used to help, build the new government of West Virginia.
Right.
But once it's all said and done at the end of the war, they also provide that money back to the people that were still there that worked on the asylum and use the money to help finish the building.
So it
was used for good.
Paid the people back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that awesome?
That's pretty good.
I thought that was so funny when I read that.
That's really good.
I don't know how I'd never heard that story before. Or maybe I had and just didn't retain it, but
I've never heard of that.
It's amazing.
That's
Love
really
it.
good.
Yep. So the war ends. They end up finishing the building eventually. And I also didn't know this. It is the largest hand-cut stone masonry building in North America.
Who cut the stones? Hannah.
Prisoners, and then
his name?
later. No, okay, so it was built using prison labor at the start, but later there were skilled stonemasons from Germany and Ireland that were brought in to work on it. Yeah, and it's actually the second largest in the world. The only bigger one is the Kremlin in Moscow, Russia.
And that's way prettier, honestly.
Yeah, but isn't that cool?
Yeah.
We have the second largest hand-cut stonemasonry building in the world.
You know what's funny? We got a lot of the second largest nowadays because we got the second largest hand-cut masonry, and then we have now the New River Gorge's second largest single arch
bridge.
Yeah.
What's the biggest one?
China built one, I think, that beat it.
Freaking China.
Yeah. And I feel like they did it. I feel like they did it just to, they're like, those...
That's so lame.
Yeah,
we don't have the boo button on this one.
Oh, do we not?
No,
my bad.
One. That's okay.
I can hit brass. That's sad. Okay. Maybe.
I'm getting back to the story. It was the building, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, was designed by architect Richard Andrews, who is a big deal, famous guy, built lots of stuff, following the Kirkbride plan. Okay.
Yep.
Let's see, I said it was built using prison labor and then skilled stonemasons, Germany and Ireland. It has a capacity of 250 people. Remember that. Say it back to me so I know you're listening.
350 people. That doesn't sound like as much. as I thought.
It's not.
Are you about to tell me that they actually held a lot more?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's built with a max capacity of 250. Before it even opens, the name is changed to the West Virginia Hospital for the Insane because West Virginia became a state.
Right.
So it was given that name in 1863. The hospital opened with its first patients in 1864, even though construction was still happening until 88. But they had enough built to let people start coming. It had a farm, it had a dairy, a water system, a cemetery. A gas well is added in 1902, so the facility's pretty self-sufficient at the start.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
What's a dairy?
I assume they had like cows and they made milk and stuff and butter. I don't know.
Huh?
What?
I think a dairy, isn't that spelled? How is that spelled? Is it Derry?
No, that's the fake town in Maine from Stephen King's stuff.
Huh?
Dairy is dairy, like the dairy aisle in the grocery store.
That's what they had, a dairy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. They made milk?
Mm-hmm. They like grew their food.
Probably cheese too.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some half and half.
Probably.
That they put in their coffee.
No, probably not.
Oh. Do you think they had a frother that they could froth it with?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Okay, you want to hear a creepy fact?
No. Skip ahead.
Assuming this is true.
Imagine like I don't. Skip to the happy part.
Assuming this is true, I read it in a couple places, but it could be a little sensationalized. Apparently, the property was 666 acres.
Wow.
Weird, right?
Sure.
The name is changed to Weston State Hospital in 1913.
Okay.
So I'll just probably call it Weston for a little while. So remember the capacity I told you? How many people could it hold?
250.
Mm-hmm. By the 1950s, it was holding over 2,400 patients.
Almost 10 times what its capacity is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, that's
Reflect on what that would feel like on the inside.
Somebody needs to call the fire marshal.
No joke.
Yep.
All right. More on why it got so overpopulated later. We're going to circle back to that.
Okay.
I want to finish the history of the building first before I talk about the actual conditions in the building.
How did they do that?
We'll get that.
Okay.
Get there. Okay. In February 1986, West Virginia Governor Archmore announced plans to build a new psychiatric facility somewhere else in the state, and he wanted to turn Weston State Hospital into a prison. That didn't end up happening because some part of it it was determined to be unconstitutional.
Right.
I get confused about stuff like that, so I don't know why, but it didn't happen. They were like, no, not a good idea. We're not doing it. So it is designated a National Historical Landmark in 1990. And ultimately, the William R. Sharp Jr. Hospital was built in Weston, and then the old asylum was closed in 1994. The closure happened because of a court order, and family members of patients filed a class action lawsuit. Why did they do that, you might ask? We're going to get into it.
Why did they file a court order? Mm-hmm. Why did they do that? I'm asking.
Horrible reasons. Horrible things.
Okay.
So,
sad.
For our listeners, I'm going to insert a warning here that I'm about to talk about the conditions inside Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum and the treatment of patients, and it is so upsetting. So if you are sensitive, to that kind of stuff, you might just want to take the history and stop listening here. It's very sad and horrible. So I'm just throwing that out there so you can make your decision for yourself. All right. So the reason it got so ridiculously overcrowded is because patients were admitted for absolutely ludicrous reasons and should never have been there in the first place.
Like, my wife doesn't listen.
No, literally.
And she makes the eggs too runny, and she's insane if she thinks I'm gonna eat a runny egg.
Not even joking. People were dropped off for things like that.
Yeah.
And less. I found a list of admission records of why people were taken here and left here. Some people were epileptic. They were drug addicts, alcoholics. Some people were there because they had asthma. Okay. They had tuberculosis patients. But then even dumber reasons. Like some women were dropped off by their husbands just because they didn't want to deal with their wife anymore, or they wanted to like have an affair and not have a wife around. They could admit their wives for absolutely no reason, and they would just be held there against their will.
Listen up, Melinda. Keep running your mouth.
Melinda, I'm going to punch him in the face for you. Don't you worry about it. As soon as we stop recording, I'll handle that one for you.
I told you she was giving me so much attitude about my shaking leg.
Yeah, as she should.
So she needs to gonna put her in an asylum.
Oh my gosh.
So the reasons like alcoholism or drug addiction or something, I guess a mental health facility could help with that.
Maybe, but at this time that wasn't like really the place. No. Yeah. And asthma. And what I saw, one of the reasons was reading too many novels. Somebody got put in the asylum for that.
You're gonna go.
I know. I was like,
you're gonna go. You know, I don't read any books. I'm never gonna go to an asylum.
Mm-hmm. But there was just like stupid reasons why people were there. Children were dropped off there, like orphans were taken here instead of an orphanage. Yeah, if women gave birth in the asylum, their children stayed there with them, even if they were healthy. Like there were just so many people there that should not have been there.
It reminds me of like the witch trials where it's like she knows way too much about how to cure an infection with leaves. She's a witch.
Yeah.
And now it's like she knows how to read. So she's going to the asylum.
And a lot of these asylums at the time would offer money to people that dropped people off.
No way.
Mm-hmm. So you'd get like $25 for bringing somebody there.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Huh.
So
like $50.
Obviously, this led to that massive overcrowding. So this place started off pretty decent, you know. It was only meant for 250 people. It was spacious. There was room. There were programs. It was a beautiful building. It started off as a good place to go. But when you have, like you said, 10 times the amount of people in the building that are supposed to be there, like, obviously it's going to go horribly wrong. So, I mean, there weren't enough staff. There wasn't enough room. It led to filthy conditions like mold, just dirt, paint peeling off the walls because there was no maintenance or upkeep, because there wasn't room to do anything. There was lack of light. It wasn't adequate. There was no lighting. There wasn't enough heat when it was cold. Definitely not enough airflow. Way too many people in the building. And things reverted back to like 1700s treatment. And this is where it gets really awful. Okay. So this is going to get bummed out for the rest of the story.
Oh, okay. Good.
Patients that were difficult to manage were locked in cages for long periods of time, just by themselves, like for days. They would be locked up alone. Sometimes they would be chained up with, like, their arm would be chained to one wall and their other arm chained to the opposite wall. So they have to stand like a T for like days. Samson. And there would be a hole under them for the bathroom. And they would just be left alone until somebody felt like taking them out.
That's crazy.
There wasn't enough furniture, so people were sleeping on floors, sharing beds, just wherever they could find, I guess. Some patients started fires, and one wing of the hospital was actually destroyed in a fire, had to be rebuilt. They were attacking each other. They were attacking staff members. One nurse went missing and was found 2 months later at the bottom of an unused staircase, decomposing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even smell her because it probably smelled so bad.
It was disgusting in there. This is a horrible story of patients being violent to each other. 2 patients tried to hang another man, and when this did not work, they held him and put his head underneath the metal bed frame in the room, and one of them jumped on the bed frame until it crushed the man's head underneath it.
Wow. Okay.
There was another man that was stabbed by a patient and tried to crawl to one of the nurses' desks for help, but died before he was able to get to the desk. So he was just like in the floor with no assistance.
Uh-huh.
So that was like patient on patient violence, but there were also just unbelievably awful treatments that the staff did to the patients, which we've all heard and we all know about, but it's still awful to read every time. So some of those treatments included electric shock therapy, ice baths, solitary confinement. They would inject people with too much insulin and put them into comas so they didn't have to deal with them.
Wow.
They would.
Do they die if they go into it?
Eventually, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's no good.
Yeah. And they also use this drug called, I'm going to pull an episode 1 trying to pronounce this.
Oh, no.
Chlorpromazine.
Okay.
Also known as Thorazine.
Yeah.
Thorazine. And that was used to keep patients in a catatonic state.
Yeah. Don't they still use Thorazine?
Probably appropriately. Probably not to just drug people so you don't have to deal with them.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sure it has a legitimate use. So then we get to one of the worst things I've ever read.
Oh, geez.
This is called the West Virginia Lobotomy Project.
Oh, I was going to ask you about lobotomies.
In the 1950s. Absolutely horrendous.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest kind of stuff.
Like, actually makes me sick thinking about this and telling you about this. I'm unwell. So quick history on this. In 1935, there was a Portuguese neurologist named Egan Moniz. Sorry for mispronouncing that. He pioneered the leucotomy, is what it was first called.
Right.
So in case anyone doesn't know, it was a surgery designed to stop anxiety or other mood disturbances in patients that weren't helped by other treatments.
Hit me with it.
The following year, American Shane. Oh, no.
A little bit of a late reaction.
Yeah, because who says that? Oh, my gosh. So in 1936, American neurologist Walter Freeman and surgeon James Watts began using this procedure in the U.S., and that's where it's renamed the lobotomy. So same thing, just different names. Right. These two guys performed hundreds over the next decade. Hundreds of lobotomies, if not in the thousands, actually.
I was going to say hundreds.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like that
Probably
many.
Thousands.
Just those two guys did them?
Yeah.
So...
Well, these guys alone did hundreds, if not thousands, but other people were doing them too.
Gotcha.
Because Freeman taught other people how to do it. I'm going to talk about that in a sec. Nice. So Freeman was using the transorbital lobotomy in 1946. Horrible description incoming. This involves putting a tool into someone's eye socket under the upper eyelid, hitting it with a hammer to get it into the brain cavity, and then moving it around to sever the connections in the brain. So that was called...
lobe there, yeah.
Yeah, that was referred to as the ice pick lobotomy because the tool looked like an ice pick.
So
disgusting.
I want to interrupt.
Okay, please do, because I need a break talking.
So if you haven't ever watched or read the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which you should because it's a classic, and it stars Jack Nicholson in the movie, not the book. And so it's a very, very good movie. First of all, I faked reading the book for an English class in high school.
Fair enough.
And I just watched the movie and gave my report on the movie, and I got an A. So
yeah,
pretty similar, I guess. But anyway, the movie is very good. There was also they do some lobotomies in that one.
Yeah.
And actually, Jack Nicholson fakes getting a lobotomy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a spoiler. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The movie's from the 80s.
Yeah.
So anyway, then the other thing is there was a Netflix show that I watched, and I can't remember what it is, but there was a lady who was a nurse at...
Was it Nurse Ratched?
Nurse Ratched,
I watched that, yeah.
And that's the lady...
Crazy show.
That's the nurse from the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, is Nurse Ratched.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is her pre-story.
Right.
Her prelude to before when she met Jack Nicholson. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, very good show. And they go into... It's
upsetting, but it is a good show.
Yeah, and they go into a lot of stuff on the lobotomies and what they did to mental patients and how she ended up being so cruel as she was in... how mean she was to Jack Nicholson and Chief and all the other people in the movie. So
I was thinking about that show a lot while I was reading this because it was upsetting.
But very, 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 very good.
Yeah.
Everyone should watch it.
Mm-hmm. So back to Freeman. He supported the transorbital lobotomy, the ice pick lobotomy technique, because he said it was quick and easy and did not require a surgeon. Basically, anyone could do it. He taught other people how to do it. He taught like non-surgeon medical people, like just doctors and physicians. He taught them how to do it because you didn't need an operating room. Just do it wherever you feel like doing it, I guess.
Get an ice pick.
He would charge people $25 to come watch him do it, and he would do it like a show. He would invite people in to watch him do lobotomies for entertainment.
Is $25 to today's money?
I don't know, Shane. I don't know the answer to that.
I was just thinking, like, I don't know, could we charge like $200 or something to do lobotomies in front of people?
That seems a little low.
Let us know in the comments of our Facebook post if you would like to be interested in a live show.
Nobody say anything about that. Don't mention it ever again.
Thank you.
So the West Virginia Lobotomy Project. In the 50s, this was an effort of the state and Walter Freeman to use lobotomies to reduce the number of patients in facilities as a response to all the overcrowding problems. They're like, we can do this, we'll cure them, we'll treat them, and they can get out, is the overarching idea.
You just turn people into zombies.
Literally.
And they're like, see, he's not acting out anymore.
He's fine.
Like, he
take him home. Get him out of here. Yeah, he doesn't do anything now. Sad. So the lobotomies were performed at the 4 state mental hospitals of the time. So there was Huntington, Spencer, Lakin, and Weston. And they're doing them at all 4.
Okay.
By 1955, around 900 people had been lobotomized, most of who did not or could not consent to this. You didn't really get a choice. If they wanted to do it, they were going to do it to you. And as we all know, those who didn't die from the procedure were left in terrible physical states. Just couldn't do anything.
Yeah. I wonder how, I don't know, this is sad to think about, but I wonder how conscious you are at that point. Like, you can't really.
I don't know. That's
can't
so
really
depressing.
do anything, but like, are you aware that you can't, or is it?
I don't know.
Because that's a terrifying thought.
That's worse, yeah.
You're stuck in your brain.
Have you heard of locked-in syndrome?
Is that where they put you under an anesthesia and you are aware?
No. That's also horrible when you are awake in surgery, but they don't know you're awake. Locked-in syndrome is when you wake up from a coma or something and you're conscious in your brain, but you can't make your body do anything.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, kind of what more closer to what I was thinking is that, like, are you, you can, walk around and stuff, but you can't really act anything, or, but are you fully conscious, or are you just not
if
aware
you have a
at all?
lobotomy?
Yeah.
I don't know. Hope I never find out.
Yeah.
Awful. So, the lobotomies, all of the inhumane treatments, the filthy living conditions contributed to a ton of deaths. And so a man named Titus Swan, this is present day, currently a man named Titus Swan, he's the Weston State Hospital expert and historian. He says it's very difficult to know an exact number of how many people died because of the way that the asylum was, but he
the records
estimates it to at least be a 5-figure number.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many people were they would come in, they would die, they would bring more people in. And they were just buried in unmarked graves at the cemetery. If anything was on their tombstone, it was just their patient ID number. Their names weren't even on them.
That's terrible.
Awful. Yep. So they don't even know what happened to a lot of these people because a lot of times their families didn't care about them. They just dropped them off. So when they died, no one would come back to get them, and they would just bury them on the property unmarked or marked with their patient number.
That's really sad.
It is horrible. It's so sad. Tons of people. So after it's closed in 1994, because there were eventually investigations done into it that was this is unbelievable. You can't do this. It's closed. It sits empty for a while. In 1999, all 4 floors were damaged by off-duty cops playing paintball inside the building.
Cool.
Yeah. 3 of them were dismissed, but
3 of them?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. The property is later auctioned by the West Virginia Department of Health and Human Resources, and it's bought by a man named Joe Jordan on August 29th, 2007 for $1.5 million. And so Jordan is still the one that owns it now, or his family unit, I guess. And after he buys it, the name is changed back to the original Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
That's good.
So that's what it's called now. That's what everybody refers to it as. Jordan has turned the building into a tourist attraction and offers tours. And the money that he gets, or that his company, organization, whoever gets from those tours, is used to repair and restore the facility. Because it was in horrible shape. Yeah. A lot of it still is, but he's using the money he gets from the tours to repair it and keep it in, like, you know, because it's a historical landmark now.
So when I went years, I mean, must have been 15 or 16 years ago, or even longer, maybe.
Yeah.
There were some places where like they're like, so here's the tour route.
Yeah.
We will let you know which rooms you're allowed to go in. Mm-hmm. Some of the rooms we have taped off, but please, first of all, don't go in the rooms that are taped off, but please do not go in a room where it's not taped off and we don't tell you that you can, because you might just fall through the floor.
Yeah.
So,
and like some of the parts of it that you can't get to still have asbestos in them and like things like that they're working on getting all that out and repairing all that. And if you go, they do different types of tours. They have just purely historic tours where they tell you basically all the stuff that I've told you. Yep. They also do paranormal tours, which leads me into the next part of my story. Okay.
Good. So the ghosts.
Now we're getting into the ghosts.
Allegheny Ghost Asylum.
Yeah. Anytime you have a place, as we're discovering in our podcast, where atrocities have happened, there's ghosts.
Yeah. You know what is like the worst part is that it's not even just like bad deaths here. It's like, so the Civil War came through here.
Oh yeah.
And then there's mental health patients, and some of them murdered each other. Mm-hmm. Some of them were murdered by their caretakers. Mm-hmm. There were people that just died because of the terrible conditions.
Yeah, I mean, like that one nurse
patients were stored there. Mm-hmm. And I shouldn't say stored. They were held there. Yeah. Cared for. They weren't really cared for.
Really cared for. Maybe early on they were cared for, I guess, but not in the later parts.
But yeah, so the people died from tuberculosis. So now you've got like just stacks, like multiple tragedies on top of one another. So
horrible history and evil history. I mean, like there is evilness there of the way people were treated. So if you go there, they have some of their more, like, I was going to say famous ghosts, but just more well-known ghosts that are there a lot, apparently. You can believe what you want. But one of them is a little girl named Lily, who is believed to have been born in the hospital and spent her entire life there. Because like I said earlier, you know, if women had their children there, the children lived there too. She died of pneumonia at age 9. So she is reported to be seen rolling balls near her room and heard laughing a lot. Like she's, according to, you know, reports, a very active ghost at the asylum. Okay. So there's lots of stories about Lily. Another one that a lot of people encounter is Dean, and this is the man who was killed with the bed frame that they jumped on his head.
Right.
He's sometimes seen in the room where he died and is sometimes heard crying in there. And that breaks my heart.
That's sad.
That makes me really sad. Yeah.
Being a ghost and you are just sad all the time.
No, that makes me want to cry right now, actually. Oh. There's also one named Ruth. She was a patient that hated men and will like throw objects at men that go on the tour.
You know what? Good.
Yeah, as she should. A lot of people report hearing screaming, very sad, doors slamming, disembodied voices, crying, banging on walls, breaking glass, and they will report seeing orbs that we talked about before, and also objects just moving on their own for no apparent reason. Kind of like the stories from Lake Shawnee.
Yeah.
I read one story about this girl. She was on a tour with some people, and a woman on the tour had brought a flashlight in with her, like a personal one.
Right.
And they were talking to, like, asking a ghost, like, oh, if you're in this room, turn the flashlight on. And they had set it in the middle of the floor alone, and the flashlight did turn on. And they were like,
cool.
Okay, turn it off. And then it turned itself off. So, I mean, you can believe that if you want, you know, whatever. But it's weird.
I know there's some science on the flashlight stuff that people have done with ghosts, but it's not. Some of them are like, okay, yeah, you turn it on and you unscrew it and then you screw it just barely. And so it might like kind of flicker. But then some of the videos I've seen of that, or some of the stories that I've seen are like, no, it won't do it until you ask it a question. And then, so it's like, what?
Yeah.
That's clearly not just the flashlight flickering, whether or not it's a like spirit or whatever.
So like those stories that I all just mentioned are weird, are scary to me. We've talked before how like I don't really think that ghosts are the actual person, but I do think there's like some evilness that stays in a place where evil happened.
Yeah.
But this next story I'm about to tell you, I mean, like the flashlight's kind of like take it or leave it. Yeah, maybe it turned on, maybe it didn't, whatever. But this story I'm about to tell you is weird, okay?
Okay.
It makes you think a little bit more about like what's really going on here.
Yep.
So Rebecca Jordan is a family member of the Jordan that bought the property.
Jordan.
I don't know the connection, but they're somehow related. And she, works there doing the tours and stuff.
Okay.
So I read an article where, what are you laughing at?
It's just Rebecca Jordan is a relative of Jim Jordan, the guy that
Joe Jordan. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know if it's like his sister or his daughter. I didn't read that. I don't know the connection.
I don't know. The first thing that popped into my head was like, you were like, I don't know the connection. And I was like, probably their last name.
I'm so sick of you, honestly.
I was just, that for whatever reason, it just struck me to be so cantankerous about it.
Oh my gosh. Whatever. Okay, listen, you're going to like this. She was doing an interview and she was talking about this ghost named Jacob who was first heard from on an episode of Ghost Hunters. They go in and they have all their equipment and they have a conversation with this supposed ghost named Jacob.
Okay.
And on that episode, the ghost hunter spoke to him and Jacob said that he was looking for his beer. Supposedly. I haven't watched the episode, but I read this. Okay. 3 years after that happened, Rebecca is given a gift by someone that includes records of patient intake forms from 1890 to 1892. So I guess someone came across this and gave it to her because they have a museum there.
Yeah.
One of the forms is for Jacob Ayers, and the admission information said he was an alcoholic who was delusional and thought everyone was hiding his beer.
No way.
Isn't that weird?
Wow. Yeah.
3 years after that Ghost Hunter episode, they find a form that matches whatever they were talking to.
Yeah, that's
weird stuff.
That's wow. Okay.
Yeah. So those are some of the ghost stories. Rebecca has also talked about how she has felt like someone has grabbed her shoulders before when she's walking through there, but nobody's been there. And people that go on the tours will often leave like cigarettes, mints, gum, and candy out for the ghosts. And those items will disappear or they'll move and be interacted with.
Okay.
So that's kind of weird too.
I just think of like the rats there, like eating the candy.
Yeah, and smoking the cigarettes. Yeah. Okay. So if anybody wants to know more about the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum or look at their tours or whatever, you can go to trans-AlleghenyLunaticAsylum.com. And once you get on their website, they have links with all their history. And that's where I got a lot of the information about Dorothy Dix and the Kirkbride plan and that Civil War story, because I didn't know any of that at all. They have different information about their tours. Like I said, there are several different types of tours you can go on. There's different versions of the historic or the paranormal or kind of blends of both and different links. The prices vary greatly depending on what type of tour you want to go on. So I think they start at they start pretty cheap and they can go up to quite expensive depending on what you want to do.
Not very much if you just want to go like look at the place and they'll tell you the stories of. Mm-hmm. I think they don't really cover like the paranormal stuff too much, but it's like, this is, so we're known for being haunted and here's some of the stories, but then they have the one
you
where
have to like specifically book a paranormal tour if you want to get scared about it. But they start
you like the overnight ones, right?
Yeah. The first floor tour, the 45-minute one is only $10, but you can do a big like 5-hour over at night tour that's $125.
That's not bad.
No, it's not. Just depending on what you want. I don't know. I don't want to get possessed by an evil ghost thingy.
I don't feel like
it's scary. I'll go during the day with you. I don't want to go at night. No, thanks.
I would bang on the walls just to mess with you.
I'm good. But they have like different events, special events that they do outside of their regular tours. So you can learn all about that on their website. They have like haunted house, flashlight tours, a fall festival, the Asylum ball. That sounds kind of cool. And then they have a shop too. Now, before we finish and move on, I closed out my notes. Okay, no, I got it back. I got it back. There was an extra insane story that I found that didn't fit anywhere else in this. So I just put it at the end. Okay. This is so dumb weird.
Bonus story with Han.
Yeah. There's a town close to Weston called Philippi.
Yeah.
It's small. They have an attraction called the Two Mummies of the Insane. Super problematic, but that's what they call it.
Two Mummies of the Insane.
So what this is, a man named Graham Hammock, back in the day, created his own version of like the embalming process. Okay. And he tested on 2 patients from Weston that had died from the Weston Hospital.
Okay.
It worked. And their mummified bodies were passed around to be viewed like as a circus attraction. These mummies, I guess is what they're being referred to as, even made it to Europe as like part of a circus tour. They find their way back and they ended up in the bathroom of the Barber County Historical Museum, where they remain to this day and can be viewed for $1.
Say what? You can pay $1 to see a mummy? 2 mummies. Mm-hmm. That's 50 cents each. That's not a bad deal.
Patients from the Weston Hospital.
That's a good deal.
That is so wrong on so many levels.
That's a steal, though.
These poor patients who might not have even needed to be there in the first place died, got embalmed, got passed literally around the world as a circus attraction, and they are now in the bathroom of the Barber County Historical Museum, where you can see them for $1. Just the worst series of events.
Yeah, Yep. I forget what I said about that being a deal. That's not good.
Awful. Okay. The end.
I mean, a good deal, though. I mean,
that's
it.
A doozy of a story. That was intense.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any comments?
No, but
it's just
I will say,
so
I remember, I don't know if they still have it, but there was, when I went through the tour, we went like a day tour or whatever way back. And they have like a bulletin board there it had like celebrities who are suspected to have mental disorders. Mm-hmm. And it's people like Ozzy Osbourne, Marilyn Manson, Alice Cooper. It's like, okay, you don't think like all the rock stars that have like done drugs most of their career and they are like do like the big shock rock thing. And then it's also people like Oprah Winfrey and like Howie Mandel. And it's like, okay, well they got like mental disorders, but Howie Mandel's like a germaphobe or something, right? And
I think he has like, is it OCD? It's like, is it classified as that?
I wanted to say that, but I'm not sure if it's classified as like that or if he's just like kind of like germophobic by itself. I'm not sure, but
I read that he got like really sick as a child and that's what started it.
Yeah. But it's like they had like all that stuff and it's like, here's celebrities that might have mental disorders. And it's like, they put like Britney Spears there too with like the picture of like her shaved head. It's like,
oh, that's so sad.
That's like no good.
She was horrible.
It might not have been her shaved head, but that's what I imagine.
If they've got these 2 mummies in a bathroom, it probably was.
Well, that's a different place, right? So
yeah. Close by though. Sad stuff.
But yeah, so I remember the story about the girl rolling the ball. Mm-hmm. So it's weird because I've been on a few like paranormal tours of things. I've never really experienced anything.
Yeah.
I've never been on a tour where somebody experienced something.
Yeah.
Like so I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it always feels like every time that you go to one of these places, they're like, yeah, we've had people that have weird experiences, so keep an eye out. Let us know if something pulls your hair or something, or like,
and it doesn't ever happen.
See something, and then it never happens. So it's like, are they just saying it to boost the tours, or is it?
I don't want anything to happen to me personally. I'm good.
Me neither. But I'm just saying, like,
others. But yeah, you're right.
It would be neat if you could like see like the ball rolling or something. I don't know.
Now, like,
and that would be really easy to fake. Like, they should just implement that, honestly.
I can definitively say I have personally experienced some scary supernatural things before.
Sure.
I know it's real, but I don't always think it's real in the way these stories say that it's real.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for a whole other episode. Like,
because we've talked about like the ghost thing. Like it might not be just like your family member or like the person who died just gets to come back, but like there's definitely something messed up about like the vibes dog. So it's something
nothing
gets
you
messed
want to
up
mess
with the
around
energy,
with.
And that's maybe it. Like
some spiritual warfare going on that you don't want to be a part of.
There was a thing that I'll tell this story really quick, that because we talked about the Lake Shawnee episode that like kids could see stuff that like we can't, or like even animals can see stuff that we can. And so it's like, well, what's the deal with like our perception of reality that's different from what like a little kid sees, or is there something that just manifests to a little kid that isn't to us? And so something is different there that we can't really explain, but they can see it and we necessarily might not. And so it's actually my mom was telling me this, that so my brother-in-law, his little brother has Down syndrome. And so when my sister and my now brother-in-law, before they got married, they got engaged and they moved into this house close to where they live now. And when his little brother would come over, he would always talk to this girl, Sarah, and be like, wave to Sarah and like, hey, Sarah, all that. And then they moved across the street and to like where they live at right now, into their actual house that they bought. And he didn't do it.
Oh.
And then one day they were sitting on the porch and he looked over at their house and was like yelling at Sarah.
No.
And so they
Back it up. Get out.
So my mom's like, there's like a Sarah there.
Yeah.
And she's like, you should research the Sarah in this one. But now it's like, I'm not going to like dox my sister like that. In, like the town that they live in. So
that's going to be like a private story.
Yeah, we're not going to do that episode.
Your house was haunted.
But then my sister was saying that it might just be something that he like does because he's said it since then in their house now. So I don't know. But yeah, she also told me that there was something where they were talking about like my brother-in-law's dad passed away, and they were in that house, his like parents' house, right, where they were all sitting there, and then the little brother with Down syndrome, was like, "Hi, Daddy," and they were like, "What?"
Oh man!
And then they heard something walking up the stairs.
No.
And like they both heard it. And,
that's so scary.
So yeah, I hope they don't mind me telling stories on the podcast. They won't, but that's actually a really even more spooky one than the girl named Sarah, because it's like that
other people in the house heard something.
Both my sister and my brother-in-law did.
That gave me chills. Look at my arm.
Yeah. So, and then you have his little brother who has Down syndrome that is like seeing something.
Yeah.
That's like, and saying hi to.
I don't like that.
And it's like, so is that like, I don't know, seeing through the veil or whatever people call, like the spiritualist people call it. But it's like he can see something that no one else can. So what's going on? So
that's so scary.
Spooky, yeah.
Oh, this was a heavy episode.
It was, yeah.
Scary and sad.
Yeah, it's really sad, but
it's tragic.
Yeah.
Horrible piece of history there.
It is, and I think it's, I guess it's not that it's good to have history like that, but it's good that it still is there, so that people can go and learn about the stuff.
Not repeat it.
Well, I mean, I don't guess people would repeat it.
Yeah.
Either way, like whether it's still there or not, but just that people can go and see that, this is a part of history that, this happened and the building is still here, and you can go and learn about the actual people that were here and hear what their story was, because nobody's telling their story at all.
You don't want those people to be forgotten.
They were put there so that no one would tell their story.
Exactly.
So, now it's good that place exists so that people know that, you might not hear every single name or whatever, and they don't even know all the names that were there probably, but at least there's a place there that people can still go and learn what the history was there.
Yeah. And like through researching to tell this story, I learned about Dorothy Dix and Thomas Kirkbride, who I didn't know their stories before either. And then Dorothy did so many amazing things. And so it's good to have, these things so that those people are remembered and we don't forget what they did.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely like a bad piece of history, but also like you have to have like that stuff. So I guess so that the good parts of history seem even better.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's not true. I don't know. But
no, I know what you mean. I get what you're saying. What are you doing next week?
So I had a couple ideas for the next episode. I wanted to do, I don't remember if we ever mentioned this on the last episode, but since we're doing the monster extravaganza, I wanted to do like, what is the monster for every state?
Oh yeah.
And just do like a brief synopsis of like
that'd be cool.
Each state's monster.
And then like later on we could do them more in detail.
Yeah, and some of the more interesting ones we could put either like in a mini episode or like
I like that idea. That'd be fun.
So
Dirk said we should do that and put him in like a battle royale, like do brackets.
Like a March Madness?
Yeah. With cryptid bracket.
Monster Madness.
That'd be funny. Yeah. And maybe we could have people vote for like which one and move on to the champion.
Yeah, that would be neat. So
yeah, I told him I thought that would be fun.
It would be. But so some of the monsters are pretty cool. Some of them are like things I've never heard of.
Yeah.
And it stems from, so there's a video and I can't remember the guy's name. And
I think he talked about it on the last episode.
Yeah. I'm going to have to like shout it out on it was a YouTube video.
Yeah. You can figure it out and say it on the next
I'll have to shout him out on the video, on the next episode, but he basically covers like all of these things. And so my girlfriend's daughter was like, you should watch this video. And I was like, I've already seen it. And so, and then we watched it, the entire thing almost.
That's so cute.
So again.
She's awesome.
So anyway. Oh, by the way, she said thank you for the bracelets that you gave her.
Oh,
and she said, loves them. And she said that to give you a hug from her. So,
she's the best.
Yep. So
I'm going to make her more bracelets now.
And she left a review on our podcast, so everyone else also should.
Yeah.
As if a 10-year-old can do it.
You can do it.
So can everyone else. So if you like the episode, leave us a 5-star review. Follow all of our social media pages on the Facebook and Instagram at Country Roads Creeps. And like and share all of our posts and comment and make the algorithm look really good for us, because that's all we're trying to do is trick robots these days. So anyway, speaking of, you know what? I'm going to start making a disclaimer that the podcast isn't made using AI, just so that whenever the AI finally takes over, that they know that we're friendly.
Yeah.
And we don't abuse them
never.
For labor and use our episodes out of them. So anyway, is there anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Wrap it up.
Bye.
No, say your thing. You can't end it like that. It's so wrong.
I know. I wanted to say something else and I just lost it in my head. But anyway, that's it for today. Next episode will be either on the monsters or something else that I decide that I suddenly find interesting and want to spend all of my time researching. So anyway, Be safe, driving home. Watch out for the not deer. Bye.
Bye.
I broke my thing.
Oh no.